Hey, you guys, welcome to the Fourth State Podcast. My name's Bailey. I'm an intuitive healer and holistic health coach. And this podcast is all about self-discovery, healing, and the mind-body connection. Today, we're talking about purpose because it's something that I think is the antidote for a lot of the problems that I see from my clients, from the people that I interact with, is this lack of connecting with this purpose, with their purpose. And without purpose, I like to think of it like we are almost like a paper airplane. Like we can take flight and we can fly and we may be able to sustain that for a little while. But after a while, if you are not having a sustainable driver of why you are flying, of why you are doing the things that you want to do, then it'll eventually fall down. So let's talk about what a life without purpose looks like and why it's important to recognize that part of your life. So let's talk about what a life without purpose looks like and how it manifests for people in certain behaviors. The reason this is so important is that when we are not having a purpose to why we are showing up for the day, like if you are not wanting to get out of bed, if you are not wanting to leave and do things, there's a lack of connecting to your purpose. You may struggle with motivation or just even in destructive behaviors, self-sabotage, buffering behaviors. That can look like drowning yourself in social media or TV or even going to drugs or just following escapism in all forms. And it's so important to check in with this because not only that, it can also lead to burnout. A lot of time when I see people going through burnout, it's not that they don't know what they want. They know what they want, but they're not continuously checking in with that why and their purpose. And so they lose the momentum. They lose the drive to actually go and do the things that they know they need to do. So how do we even get here in the first place? How does someone who is living their life in joy not know their purpose? What actually contributes to a person who doesn't have a defined purpose in their life? Now, when you think of purpose, you probably are thinking of, this one true sentence to you. And that is what it is. Like there is one true sentence that can sum up your purpose. Like I'm here to empower people in their own individuality. If I could put it in one sentence, that would probably be my purpose. But the thing is that it's so much more complex than that. And we don't need to define it as one single sentence rather than just an overall feeling of why you want to do something and the gifts that you have, how you can put those forth. That's really the juicy meatiness of purpose is, are you using your unique gifts, skills, and experiences that no one else in the world has? Are you using those parts of yourself to impact your life? Are you using those parts of yourself to perhaps leave a legacy behind? What are the parts of yourself that are here to stay and make an impact in this world? So some of the reasons that people don't know their purpose is because we are drowned out by a lot of noise. In this age, there's so much societal pressures, there's external pressures, and just a lot of influx of information that is telling us who we should be and how we should be and what school we should go to and how much money we should save. All these things that have been taken with a lot of wisdom. Like all of these suggestions from our grandparents and our parents, they have a lot of wisdom in them. The idea of be a doctor or be a lawyer, because our parents and our grandparents saw the doctors and the lawyers suffering the least in the community. Our parents and our grandparents saw looking at savings and working towards your savings as something that could protect you later in life. Very, very important stuff. But the problem with this is that the day and age is changing so rapidly, and that the things that were of the past are no longer the same in the future. As well, it's a problem because no one can give you your purpose. You bestow that upon yourself. You are the only one in this world who can look at yourself and say, this is why you're here. These are your unique gifts, and you're here to let them play out. When people start to value the external expectations and societal pressures more so than themselves, that's when we run into a lot of neglecting of our own desires, a lot of neglecting of our own aspirations. And that leads to a lot of dismay. That leads to misalignment. That leads to confusion. That leads to restlessness. That leads to boredom. All of these things that people are humanly experiencing, like the human experience of sadness and of heartbreak and of pain, they're meant to be experienced, but they can be much more light when you have a deep reason why you're doing the things that you're doing. So connect to your why, connect to what you're here to do. And I'm going to bring you through some different journal prompts to help you with that later. But I want to set the foundation first and continue on this idea that it really is so essential to find what societal pressures are developing around you. And can you challenge and overcome those societal pressures to develop your own sense of self-awareness, to create your own space for personal exploration and introspection, and find out what's really true for you. Another thing that really keeps us from getting in touch with our purpose is fear of failure. Fear of failure that we're not going to be able to do it well enough. Fear of failure that, someone else can do it better than me. We also see limited exposure to different opportunities, or just focusing only on the survival and meeting basic needs. This is probably the most common thing that I see upon most individuals, is this feeling that there's this need to catch up to the survival. There's this need to catch up to the basic needs point. And once we meet that, then you'll be able to live your purpose, right? That's the idea. Once you meet your basic needs, then you'll be able to live in your purpose. Then you'll be able to have joy. Stop waiting. Stop waiting to feel a certain way. Stop waiting on your purpose to be perfectly aligned at some point in time. A purpose is not a job. A purpose is not a career. A purpose is not a family or money. It's the feeling and the drive that you have underneath your skin. Like, yes, there are certain purposes when it comes to family. Like, a lot of people that I've spoken to feel as though their family is their purpose and that's their legacy to leave on. But when you're looking at the family dynamic and what you're here to leave on as a legacy, you're either consciously choosing to introduce a new path, introduce a brighter, more high vibe path to your family without past traumas intruding on your behaviors, without personal insecurities intruding on your behaviors, but a family that is embedded in deep love and individuality. Like, that's the type of purpose that I love to see from people, is this purpose to build a family, but not just unconsciously build a family. Consciously choose why you are going in the direction that you are doing, stopping for a moment and thinking. Like, that's really the whole premise of this podcast, and the whole premise of purpose is there's so much noise in this world that a lot of the time we forget to slow down and think. We forget to slow down and have self-reflection that can help us discover why we're here and what our unique ability is. So now let's talk about, how do we find our own unique ability? How do we find our own unique twist to the world that we have? How do we find our own perspective to the world? The first thing to recognize is that a lot of the time our education and the people around us can highlight and pedestal certain careers and certain success markers. So first, look at that and see if you are heavily influenced by that, or if you're just a little bit influenced by that. or maybe you're not influenced at all, but have a moment to reflect on if the education system's prioritizing performance and standardized testing limited your own definition of success. Check and see if different subjects like math and language arts, how those were emphasized, if that skewed your ability to see your own definition of success. Check to see if different external markers of success like wealth and fame have narrowed your success. There are so many different things that we experience in growing up with family and schooling and society that shape our own perception and definition of purpose. So really look at those parts of yourself and see where you can reduce the impact that external factors have had on your purpose. That's the first step. Recognizing and accepting and overcoming any societal pressures that have inhibited your pursuit of different interests, of different passions. Like I remember, for example, growing up, like all of my friends around me were like, oh yeah, I want to be a singer. I want to be a pop star. I want to be this. I want to be that. And then now, they're all not doing anything like that. There's this feeling that you can do anything in the world when you're a child. There's this feeling that there's no cap to how successful you will be or what you can manifest. But then once we go through all this schooling, once we go through society showing us that there are different fears to look at, our ego develops. Our ego is like basically our protection mechanism for the world. This is what keeps us surviving. And our ego grows stronger as we go into adulthood. So those dreams of the past, those dreams of childhood have been taken away by your ego, have been taken away from society. So a major part of finding your purpose is healing past traumas, is healing your inner child and going through a period of transformation, of healing, where you can uncover and process anything that's unresolved from your past, any traumas, limiting beliefs that may be blocking your own behaviors. There's so many things that we have embedded in our DNA from how we've grown up, from traumas and limiting beliefs that have been thrown around us. And you guys, it's so important to stop for a moment and ask what those are. And take practices like forgiveness, self-compassion, energy healing, where you can release those experiences and you can find closure and you can experience that deep healing. From that deep healing, you're able to really get into a space where there's an emergence of a clearer sense of purpose. When you release everything, what are you here to do? What is the emotion and feeling that you are meant to emit in this world? It is totally unique and totally individual. Not your knowledge, not what you've learned in a book. Yes, that is helpful and that will provide your life's task and your career with much help. But how you are emotionally and energetically and spiritually and vibrationally showing up is yours and yours only. No one can ever take that away. And there is no one who can repeat that or, do the same thing. We're so individual and so unique in our energy. I think people forget that a lot. I think people forget that even though you're doing the same job as someone else, that your spin on it is needed. Your perspective on it is so needed. And the things that you'll be able to accomplish in this world, in this industry, in this job versus the other person, they're going to be totally unique to you. It may not be the typical representation of success in the form of wealth and fame, but it's going to be totally unique in the energy and the vibration that you transcend upon the industry that you're in. So in addition to healing past traumas, which is a huge huge ordeal, by the way. Like looking into your past and healing those stories of your past, that's no small feat. But looking into that and questioning that and observing it from a space of trying to understand your greater sense of purpose can really help you emerge that. In addition to healing your past traumas, it's about healing your inner child. It's about transcending your ego. It's about letting go of attachments, becoming this empty vessel that you can create a blank space from. Like you have all the space in the world to create your ego from. When we do that, our purpose comes so much more easily. So when we're talking about healing past traumas and healing the inner child and transcending ego and attachments, like I said, this is a huge ordeal, but just recognizing that they're there is the first step. Recognizing them and widening your awareness that these traumas have experienced and that the troubles that you went through with your inner child. If you're not familiar with the term inner child, it basically means who we were as a child. So like we all go through things as our child that maybe a lot of them are good, but some of them are not so good. And our inner child gets formed and gets pain from those experiences. Looking and connecting with the inner child is basically like the wiser self, who you are now in this body now, your adult self, looking back at who you were and basically being that wise, caring, loving, unconditional loving part of that inner child. And when it comes to ego, I spoke a little bit about this earlier. The ego is here to protect us. The ego is here for us to see contrast in the world. Like it helps us to be able to see the difference between one lane of being in the car versus the next. It helps us prevent us from being in car accidents or from yelling at someone random or from getting in any scary situations. The ego gets a bad rep, but it's actually really, really important for us. We want to make friends with it. We want to get to know it. We want to understand it and see what those experiences of fear are. If you can have an awareness that this ego is a part of you, that this inner child and that these past traumas and these attachments are part of you, you can start to recognize and unravel them a little bit deeper. This may take time. This may take a lot of energy healing or journaling or meditation, but that is the whole rep of it. That is what you do when you're healing inner child and healing past traumas. It's about broadening your awareness of it. It's about accepting it and letting it go. So if you can do that, it allows you to discover your own authentic, soul-centered purpose with much more ease than all the pressure and the noise from the whole experience of the universe. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about purpose. The right purpose gets you up in the morning. It's that 100%, not that 50%, not that 75%, but you are so thrilled to go and do that purpose every single day. The right purpose makes you younger. The right purpose makes you smarter. The right purpose makes you flow better. When you're in your purpose, things in life are just easier. And if your actions are motivated by the purpose that is just for you, you will like tap dance your way to work. You will be so thrilled to be there. So like I said earlier, defining and deciding your purpose is an art and a science. It's not like one day you're going to decide this sentence and this paragraph is my purpose. You're going to have little hints from the universe that show you this is what you're here to do. And by and large, all of us, I believe, it's my belief that we have the same universal purpose. And that's to raise our vibration, to raise our consciousness, to raise the consciousness of humanity. Like even the example I gave earlier about someone's purpose who is their family, like that purpose is expanding into their families, into their families' friends. That consciousness, that love is expanding and reaching all different networks of reality. So at its core, we're all in this purpose to expand the vibration of humanity. We're all in this purpose to expand the consciousness of humanity. One person's purpose could be played out in being a bartender, or one person's purpose could be played out in being a golf player. Those are the most random examples, but I'm just here to tell you that it doesn't have to look a certain path. Like, just because we are all raising the vibration of humanity, it doesn't mean that that's what needs to be your purpose. Like, it doesn't mean that you need to be a spiritual coach. It doesn't even mean to need that your career has to do with anything with your purpose. You can separate your career from your purpose. But if you want to have a career that is easeful and joyful and flowing, you will integrate the two. You will find a way to have that self-sustain ability from your job, but also infusing your purpose into it. The example I gave earlier about the bartender, like this guy's purpose is to raise the consciousness of humanity, but he's over here slinging drinks. How can he do that? Every individual that he connects with, he gives his heart to. He loves unconditionally. He is a positive impact in his workplace, in his customers base, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't mean that what you do is your purpose. It means, are you connecting with your greater power, and your greater power of recognizing your own individuality and your own individual guidance that you have upon this world. We all have things to say. We all have guidance to give and to experience and to create, all guidance or art or whatever. We all have something that we're here to give. We all have something that we're here to give. Not take, but give. What is that? That is your purpose. What are you here to give? Is it joy? Is it expression? Is it sensuality? Is it whatever? And the thing is that your purpose can change with each season too. Like, just because one season you decided your purpose was to help people with understanding their own unique individuality, another purpose later on could be helping people fix their sleep. I'm using my own example. My purpose in my work has shifted from helping insomniacs. If you don't know me, I'm a sleep consultant. I've been working with insomniacs for years, and I did a lot of work in helping insomniacs recover from just creating different circadian rhythms, creating a healthy experience with sleep. And that was my purpose for a long time. I'm here to help people get better energy through sleep. That was my purpose. But now it's shifted and it's still the same. I'm still here to help people raise their energy. I'm still here to help people find the habits and the perspectives that help them be a better human, be better at sleeping. But now my focus has shifted into personal power, into healing past traumas, into healing the inner child, into healing self-sabotaging behaviors that come around. So it's the same, but it's different. It's changed with the seasons. And that's how I encourage you to look at your purpose as well. But connecting with that on not only a weekly basis, but a daily basis can really help you drive your work forward. It really can help you drive your creation forward, not just your work, your creation, your emotion, your feeling. That's what can help drive it forward, is connecting with it. I've talked to so many successful individuals, and one of the things that I hear the most in successful individuals is that they are all connecting with their why in the morning. They're all connecting with their vision. We all have an idea of what we want our vision to do. Like, we all have an idea of some sort, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But are we connecting with it? Are we really from a heart space, not from a head space? Like, that's the thing with purpose too. It's not something that comes from the head. It's something that comes from the heart. So are you connecting with that? Are you moving through different experiences and still connecting with that, even when you're failing, even when you're going through growing pains, even when you're going through happiness or whatever? Are you connecting to that heart's purpose? Okay, so we've said a lot. The main points were we have a lot of conditioning from society, and it's important to release that conditioning. We have a lot of experiences and past traumas that build upon how we interact with the world, and it's important to look at that and be aware of that. But now, how do we lay it all down, and how do we create a framework for understanding our own purpose? I've been saying this the whole time, but I'll say it again. Your purpose is your own uniqueness. Your purpose is your own individuality. So what values are important to you? First, let's look at values. Let's look at passions, strengths, aspirations, alignment. So we find our own unique purpose by checking in with our own individuality. We're so unique. So this individual that we're here on this earth has something to say. What is our own individual values? What are our own individual passions and strengths and aspirations? And what feels aligned for us? When I think about values, I feel like there are so many tests online that help us understand what values are the most important to us. But I like to think of it in more realistic terms of how you are feeling on a day-to-day basis. Like, what are the stories that illuminate what values you have? What interactions did you have that triggered you, and why did they trigger you? What interactions did you have that brought you happiness, and why did those things bring you happiness? All this introspection can illuminate what values you have. Like for me, I value respect. And I have only recently realized that because I value so much respect in my communication, in my relationships, in my partnership, in my platonic relationships. I value respect in my relationships because I believe that I want to treat others as I want to be treated. I want to be treated with respect. And so I value respect and I embody respect. I also embody freedom. Freedom is a huge value for me. I think it's a value for a lot of people. But my freedom is the freedom of the mind. It's not freedom of the 3D of wanting to be millionaire, billionaire, whatever. And while I may have those goals, but that's not my main value. I value freedom. I value the ability to be where I want, when I want. I value the ability to say what I want, when I want. Freedom is so important to me. And my third value is health. I really value health, just staying healthy. And that's through my own experience. I've experienced insomnia, like I spoke about earlier. I've experienced chronic pain. I've experienced different surgeries, different health scares. And those all brought me to understand that health is one of my top 3 values. It's so important to me that I spend many hours a day working on my health. I carefully create meals. I carefully choose how I'm going to move my body and what feels good to my body. Health to me is like more so about mind-body connection. Like, how am I connecting with my body? But that's honestly a conversation for another day. I also like to think of when we're finding our purpose, what are you passionate about and what does the world need? And almost putting them in a Venn diagram and finding that your purpose is in between. There's a lot of different models for this. I don't know if you guys have heard of Ikigai, but for me, I think the simplest way to put it is, what are you good at? What are you strong in? What are your natural strengths and aspirations? And what does the world need? There is your life's task. There is what you are here to do. And yeah, this can sort of go into career as well as purpose. But what brings you joy? What brings you fulfillment? If you follow that joy, if you follow the natural skills or talents that you feel confidently about, then you will fall into a task that comes more effortlessly. You will fall into strengths that contribute to your own accomplishments. And lastly, let's talk about the big daddy of them all, alignment. Alignment in the sense of different moments that have felt really alive for you. That's what I think about when I think of alignment. Like, where have you felt the most alive, the most thriving version of yourself? What were you doing? And it's not like the type of aliveness that you feel like when you're really having fun. Like, that's obviously a lot of people are really having fun with their friends, and that's something that we're all meant to experience. We're all meant to experience community. But what is like the flow state experience of feeling alive? Not just like the peak happiness, but where are you steadily content at? Where could you be at for hours and hours and hours and hours and years and years and years and be very happy in that alignment? Of course, your alignment can shift over the years or the months or whatever, but true alignment is looking at where can you align with your values, your passions, your strengths, your aspirations, and overall create a purposeful and meaningful life. So I'm going to end this with some journal prompts regarding alignment. I want you guys to think about each area of your life and what is the most aligned and what is the least aligned. Different areas like your job, your friendships, your family, your relationships. Can you give those a rating from 1 to 5 and see what feels most aligned and what feels least aligned? If you look at the least aligned, you can have a plan of action to start moving closer to a life that aligns with your authentic self. Take a note of that and start taking action towards that. Also ask yourself, are there any areas of your life where maybe you feel disconnected or are desiring escape from? What are those areas and how can you address those? Once you start to really get introspective with these experiences and these questions of where you can create more alignment in your life, more and more questions and more answers will come. Just continue to follow those. Keep going. Purpose isn't a destination, it's a journey. Purpose isn't meant to all of a sudden you figure it out. It's meant to be built on every day and meant to be checked in on every day. So keep going. Keep going. You've got this. And once you start to open your eyes up to why you're here and the feeling and the energy that you want to pass on and be your legacy, you're creating magic, baby. You're creating real power. So go ahead and do that for me, will you? That's all I have for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, follow, subscribe, all the things. It helps so much when you guys like this or rate it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that was helpful. I take questions on my podcast to my DMs on Instagram, and if you send it in, I will answer it in podcast format. So if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, I would love to hear from you. Without further ado, have a great day.